the first responders to do is have it on their phone, drop a pin of where they're at or where they want us to land, or hit the push button, and it goes through the cycle, goes straight to our dispatch, it goes straight to us, and as soon as we get the call, it shows our aircraft on a map, and you get an accurate ETA of how close we are and how long it's gonna take for us to get there. With us being in Temple, we're located at the airport, so you're looking at an 11-minute ETA of flight time. So we also factor in, we have to make sure that the aircraft is safe, ready to go, we have equipment, all that good stuff. We average about 7 minutes there, so you're looking at about 17 to 20 minutes for us to get the call and get there.
And then another 17 to 20 minutes to Temple.
So it's,
Or wherever you're
it's gonna be
taking.
about
Depends
11
on
minutes
where
back to Temple. We have the capability to go wherever you need, so if it's appropriate. So if you need a burn center, you're gonna be going down Austin or San Antonio. If you need neuro or cardiac, Temple, well, obviously the closest place. But if you do have a residence that has cancer and they're cancer doctors in Houston, and you call and we come here and they're like, hey, are y'all able to fly to Houston? Sometimes we can, and if the weather's good, we'll do it. So it all really depends.
So questions so far?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking theoretically, if you ever have to pick up, say like my wife gets sick off one and pick her up, and I'm telling you, hey, take the same day with George Center. That's where all the medical is. We don't do that, we don't take it.
So yes, if it's appropriate, because every facility has different capabilities. So St. David's in Roanoke might not be the best place for her if she's having a heart attack, right? So if she's having a heart attack, she might need cath lab capabilities, and we might know that Roanoke doesn't have that, so we're gonna have to go to Temple. Does that make sense?
So the general policy is the closest, most appropriate facility is where we'll check that.
So-
And a lot of times that means when that facility has that.
And this membership is household membership. So anybody who lives in your house at your address is registered on the membership. And if they are flown out of anywhere in Bell or Williamson County, doesn't mean it's at your house, it's anywhere out of Bell or Williamson County. So if you're at the shooting range, you blow your big toe off, and they come out to pick you up out there, you're covered because it's still in Williamson County. But you know what I'm saying is like, are you gonna roll over on the way between here and Georgetown, heading into work or whatever, you're still in Williamson County, so you're going to be covered. Now, the upgrade you speak of, the $30 upgrade, that's anywhere outside of Bell or Williamson County. If you say, I work in Austin every day, I get to tussle with one of these crazy on the street corner,
Well, they were fine.
and I have to get flown out of Austin, then that's covered if I did the $30 upgrade.
Right.
And that's per household also. So,
Right, and when we do press releases and the flyer, we typically get that information out there about how to purchase that. And we have a lot of folks living in the county or city that travel, and they travel a lot. And so this makes sense for them to do the upgrade.
as long as PHI picks you up and not like some of the other ones.
Right, it does have to be a PHI, air medical transport. And, I've said this before, why this makes sense is because we are the primary aircraft here. So in other parts, it might not be, but here it makes sense because we are a primary aircraft.
And then some of the things, so an ambulance is dispatched out of Temple, they take them 45 minutes to get here, we've come to find out recently, or longer, because there's only so many boxes that they have on the ground, and so, if they're all tied up in Colleen or Belton or Troy or wherever, it could be upwards of an hour before they get here, and so sometimes the patient can't wait that long. So, and what they stock, the medications they stock, you got the front system, the medications they stock in an ambulance, maybe the air ambulance has more medications on it, so you kind of touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at a ground ambulance crew, they unfortunately in this area do not carry, like, say, whole blood. So you have a tractor accident right outside of town, or you lost a limb, we need whole blood. So we carry whole blood on the aircraft. We also do surgical procedures. We are able to do finger thoracostomies. That's where you cut the chest open, put your hand inside, really pressure off the chest. We're able to do surgical airways. There's a lot of advanced protocols that we checked off on from the air medical side. We fly one flight paramedic, which is a critical care provider, and also fly one flight nurse, who is also another critical care provider. So on an ambulance, you typically have one advanced life support provider in the back, and with us, you're also getting two. And you're also getting extra medications that we carry versus the ground. So, we have antibiotics that we carry, the whole blood, and there's a few other things that, I won't go too in depth about. But that's kind of the difference between us and ground.
Not just a fast way to get from one place to the next, but they are actually able to do life-saving procedures up there.
In order to get on an aircraft, the paramedic must have at least 3 to 5 years of experience, and it's the same for a nurse, and that must be ER or ICU experience. So when you call an aircraft, you're usually getting a really high maintenance run crew that knows what they're doing.
And then, when we met, excuse me, when we met the other day, so once you get the call, you're at Temple Airport or Wayne Airport or
Temple Airport.
Temple Airport. Okay, and then boom, you're in Bartlett. How fast can they be? So you said something like within like 45 or 49, 50 minutes, you could have them in an OR, in the operating room. Is that what you said last time, or is that?
So I'm trying to think back. So I told y'all approximately 17 minutes from the call we received, from the time we received the call to get here. We like to average approximately a 10-minute scene time, and that's if everything is going right. We can do everything the ICU can do. So if the patient needs immediate care, we provide that immediate care and then we package for transport. So say that's 10 minutes for a trauma call like that. You're at 27 minutes, and then you're looking at another 9 minutes back to Temple Sky White, which we have the OR capabilities, and they go straight there. So with that also being said, the ground side, if you're having a heart attack, you have to call, say, hey, I'm going to have to activate this guy, the cath lab, they're having a heart attack. A lot of times, the ground crews get there, you'll have to go to a room. That delays your time to the cath lab approximately 10 to 20 minutes. With us, we call, hey, I need cath lab activated, we land, and we roll you to the cath lab.
So,
You're really receiving that higher level of care.
Yes.
Okay.
so I've had a lot of calls in the last couple, since the COVID thing, everything hit. There's one night in town where EMS had to come, it was almost an hour before we got here. Which, somebody lied, So I had a lot of people after that was posted, of course, on Facebook. That's where all the world's problems are solved. My phone started ringing like the next day. What are we gonna do about this EMS situation in Bartlett? Blah blah blah. You got a lot of senior adults. Most including myself, that could really rely on this and it be good, I guess, comfort, ease. That option is there. And I mean, obviously, they still bill insurances.
Yeah.
But if it's an uninsured person, which we probably do have quite a few of those in Bartlett, then it's the membership covers the flight costs.
Yeah, and like just a copay and deductible portion, like the US average for deductibles is something like $5,000 per household. So we take care of that. I am particularly, I really like to talk about the Medicare situation, because with Medicare, depending on your supplement, you're either responsible for the whole air medical transport bill, which is rare because most people take a supplement, or you're responsible for at least what they call a co-insurance, which is typically in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. So those are things that can be eliminated with a program like this. So.
You're talking about getting caught with, maybe I missed it, I didn't hear. Who actually calls? Is that from the 911 call or from the fire department phone or is
So-
that take from like well, my having to call?
So it will come from a first responder. So a first responder will go through the Bell County Comm Center and dispatch us. Or with this app that we now have, the first responder can actually launch us from their phone.
Okay.
So those are the things that we do have implemented, but as of right now, the auto launch and everything goes through dispatch, which is Bell County Commerce.
So nothing really changes in the scope. Again, you used to pick up the phone, call 911, and that's how that process would start for us.
Okay.
On whoever makes that decision. But a first responder, yeah, no. So we typically, like I said, we take a look at households to do this, and, I think I sent you guys a bad quote, so I apologize. That was my Aggie math, and I'm Aggie, so I can say it.
Everybody's perfect.
I won't stop you.
But I think that you had given me 639 for the residential count, or the household count. I had actually I looked online for the Willowbell, right, and they, on their website, show 90. So I have not clarified if they're full, or if they're only partially bed capacity, but right now, it's 90, and that's what I have down here. So, so that's 729 households at $7 per household per year. And that comes to $5,103 per year, which would cover every resident living in the incorporated city limits if they were flown from Williamson or Bell County. And typically, we do an agreement, a service agreement. This agreement is renewed every year. So at the end of the year, you take a look at it and decide, this is not really working for us. Everybody parts ways. I'm probably the only person that's completely unhappy with that. But, we've never had somebody not renew, so. It's always been a really good program.
So two other comments to make is when we had our initial meeting, fire chief was there, and his general comment was that this is another tool in the tool belt. This is something else at his disposal that he can better assess and address any situation that he comes up on. It's a life, health, safety measure. But also, just for clarification, is the city required to have any staff increase or any equipment increase or obligations or any maintenance, any other cost outside of what is outlined in the service agreement?
No, there's none. We manage all the patient, approvals on our end, on the patient financial services side. As far as operationally, they still operate just as normal. They may be working with your first responders to help find LCs and things like that, but all of that is in the normal scope of what we do every day on the operational side. So no obligation from the city on that part.
We don't have to budget for a helicopter.
I had my eyes on one, but I guess a couple other thoughts, as you mentioned, Smithville and Bastrop as current folks under a service agreement
Yes.
that do the citywide program.
Yes, so both
Okay.
Smithville and Bastrop have been with us, coming up on 3 years, so May will make their 3-year renewal.
Okay.
They've been quite pleased every year, but if there's any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to Robert or,
Which is why, right,
yeah.
that's a good, do a little bit of market research for us to see what their experience has been, pros and cons of it all.
So the city of Bastrop, Sylvia, I think, she's brand new.
Mhm.
Connie Schroeder is the mayor, and she's been there for a while through the terminus agreement. So she's a great reference there. If you called Sylvia, I don't think she had any problem with it. She's probably wouldn't know as much as Connie. So you can
Okay.
definitely reach out to her.
So, and then we also spoke of, because we care about our city employees,
Yes.
probably, we have, 17 employees?
Yep.
And there may be 4 of those that actually live in Bartlett. So, like, all my line crews back here in the yellow, are those yellow? Yellow shirts. None of those guys live in Bartlett. So if they're in Bartlett working or even on their way to Bartlett working, we'd want them covered. Joseph lives in Georgetown. You know, our office personnel, two of those ladies live outside the city. One's from Colleen and one's lives in Holland. You know, most of our people do not live, none of my police officers live in Bartlett. They all live in Bell County or Williamson County, but how do we go about getting them covered as well?
Sure. So I sent two type of agreements. If the city, one of them is if a city would like to purchase for the employee, that's the one that lists the quantity 17, the annual rate is $60 per household per year. Because this is what we call a national, these are national membership agreements. It does cover everyone residing in the household, and it does provide them with national coverage. So it is a little broader coverage than the folks that would be living here, and, you know, I can kind of let you guys
Is it
figure
an
that
actual
out.
membership?
Yes, it is an actual membership.
And if the city does not go with the $7 per household, anybody can, you know, get the membership, like $75 a household or something like that.
Right, and, yeah, it's 65. If you wanted to, I know, if we wanted to, you could also offer it, like a benefits period or whatever. We've got another little, not application, but a little agreement in there for that. So there are a couple of different
I
options.
guess I saw that maybe.
Did you, maybe you didn't get those out, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Maybe-
Sorry, guys.
You did.
But I can definitely leave them with you.
Yeah, if you don't mind. And,
Yeah, I'll leave both of these with you.
so we don't have to make any action on this tonight. It's just basically informational. I mean, y'all can, if y'all choose to, you may want to look at our budget, see where, because obviously this is not budgeted. We're talking about $5,103 as this initial quote, for that'd be through December 31st.
Right, so we'll keep this quote active until December 31st. That gives you time to work it in your budget if you want to. And, you know, I would think that hopefully within that year you would.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, this is kind of almost a no-brainer, but it's, you know, something that we gotta look at our budget, find that $5,000, make sure we have somewhere to pull from. And then, obviously we'll keep it, you know, as we go back in the budget talk in a couple of months, or a couple of weeks, for the next budget, you know, we'll have an idea of what we're plugging in. Or you don't have to make action, doesn't matter. And then, we can reach out to other cities, Bastrop, Smithfield, kind of get a little bit of information from them, how it's working for them, how it's working for their citizens, the EMS and blah, blah, blah. I don't think we'll get anything bad with youth back or anything like that, so, but due diligence, we'll do our homework.
The city of Holland did just decide,
Did they decide tonight?
yeah, so they're going ahead and going with the program.
Cool.
Citywide?
Holland.
Well, the Holland did the
Yes,
citywide
yes,
program?
they did the citywide, yes.
We can't let Holland do it.
Yeah.
You have to pretty much have like annual rate increases with that, or
So-
you have to do it every time, or what?
Sure, it's a good question. I get asked the question a lot. We have what we call an actuarial testing, which we have to meet every year. The program's been in existence for 30 years. I wish I could tell you we're not ever gonna have rate increases. I just can't tell you that. What I will tell you is that the program's been in existence for 30 years. During 2020, during that heavy peak of COVID, we actually did do a rate increase. That's the first rate increase we've done in 30 years. Now, is that gonna be the same way moving forward? I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that we try to keep our numbers as tight as we can and still meet that actuarial testing, which basically says we're not paying out more than we are taking in. And that's a legal requirement.
But you did say it was an annual service agreement?
It is
that
an annual service agreement.
Okay.
So I get the question too about, you know, do you have to constantly update your numbers, whatever. We don't really look at that. At the end of that year, we'll look and go, okay, you grew by 50 households or you shrunk by 50 and here's the new rate. What I do ask is that since we do a roster, an address roster, that if you get new house, like if you're expecting a housing development, you get that in the middle of the year, we want to get them covered, so you need to make sure that the roster are sent to me, so we can cover. But we're not gonna nickel and dime, oh, well, you added 200, so in the middle of the year, you owe me X more. So-
Almost $7.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we're not gonna do that.
You guys, y'all, hey, 2 residents just moved out of the city, we want 14 bucks.
I know. So
We'll settle for a trip around the block in the helicopter.
we play a little nicer than that. So, yes, sir.
How do you go to the insurance service?
You know, so it depends on the interest provider. With the new balanced billing legislation, that has gotten much better. We actually go through kind of a mediation process. So that has gotten much better. What they will not pay for, of course, is co-pays, deductibles, those that are uninsured, and Medicare health insurance that we typically see. Those things.
Yes, yeah, I've always wondered, I thought when they first started doing stock that, this, like you said, I go to the ring and I see you get a double shot.
So you're uninsured, say we got an uninsured person, and you have to fly them out of Barton tonight, how much are they gonna be good for you?
Yes, yeah.
So it varies, and we don't do the pricing, that would be nice if we don't do that, but, it really varies. And it varies, the further away you are from care, the further that transport is, the higher the cost is going to be. Typically, we charge a lift charge plus a loaded mile, so only if you're flown, you get billed. But, you know, ultimately, if you were to Google something like that, you might see that it was an average of about $32,000. That's probably about the average cost of a flight.
Maybe you on that.
But I can't tell you that's what we're gonna charge.
We love
because
you.
It's gonna vary, you know, it's gonna vary from carrier to carrier, and it's
Cut
gonna
my
vary
toe off.
on-
I don't need that toe.
But you know, oddly enough, we offer this program in a countywide format as well. And,
Is it Milam County?
Milam County. Yeah, so Milam County, it was a super big proponent of the program because they lost both of their hospitals. That's, you know, we see more and more of that happening, especially in Texas. Our rural healthcare systems are going away. But, so they lost 2 hospitals, and we, you know, when I spoke with ground providers once the program had been in place for a while, they were telling me things like people would actually decline to fly because they knew that the cost would be there, so they would be making these patient, what they thought was best decision. But now that the ground providers are able to say, this is covered, they have that weight just lifted off of them, they're like, oh, okay, you know, I need to go, I'm gonna go. It helps those ground crews get that patient on board to fly, you know, to make that decision to fly.
Dylan's got that little thing on the dash of the helicopter, you know, like the taxi has. Are you a member? Not a member? We're starting the clock. It's like the taxi cab driver, you know?
The meter's running.
I know, and that's what you would want, you know, these folks fly, they fly no matter what, they fly when they're called, and they do their job. These are just programs that we found in our community that help on the back end, helps the patient on the back end, helps them with their bill, you know, when they don't have a hospital or air medical bill to pay, that's actually money that they can contribute back into your community. They can go to the boutique, go to the coffee house and purchase the things. Well, if they're dead, that doesn't happen.
And just to be clear, that if the fire department goes to a rollover tonight and they see that we got a trauma situation, they're going to call these guys to come out and pick them up. It's life or death. They're calling these guys up to come pick them up. But this is just like, now, if we have this membership with them, that flight has been covered because they're a member of the city's PHI group.
And like I said, we'll work to support the community.
Thank you, Robert.
Dylan had mentioned like National Night Out and things like that. We can help the PR in the community. But those supporting materials help get the word out. You know, when you get a press release out, that shows your residents, hey, this is something tangible that you're getting. Sometimes folks don't think about that, but they know they pay their taxes and sometimes they don't see what they're getting, but yes, they can.
So even if we do some more research on the citywide program, tomorrow an individual could register for an individual membership. Is that correct?
Yes, so you can go to our website and purchase an individual membership. Those are at our $65 per household per year rate. But yes, the individual could sign up on their own if they wanted to. Yes.
So the only other questions that come to mind is, well, we would need a copy of the service agreement, so city attorney can review it and we can have discussion on it. We've got Smithville, Bastrop, Holland that do the citywide program. Milam County does the countywide program. In the interim, we can do some outreach. You mentioned press releases, things of that nature. We will also want to coordinate with our volunteer fire department. The key component here is identifying landing sites. I mean, that's got to be like the main thing here. And how can we incorporate that into the operations of the department, which seems pretty seamless in and of itself. And also another consideration, if council, you decide to add this as an employee benefit, health benefit, our open enrollment is in August and it takes effect in October. So just like your question, we would want to check with TML Health to see if it's covered, coordinate with TML Health to make sure that it's a viable option for our folks. So still a few bullet points to kind of talk about, but I think the cost of doing this citywide program, which my initial thought for identifying the funding would be to go to the volunteer fire department and have them trim out $5,000 to do something like this, because how critical it would be to their operations. It is peanuts compared to what it would cost to operate or be in a mutual aid agreement with an EMS service or have it in-house. So this is a very, very, very cost-effective option that really would help in the rare circumstances that do come up. So,
And I can send you references if you'd like those, or if you just feel comfortable picking up the phone, you're welcome to do that.
And so, we know we have a helicopter in Temple. You only have one in Temple?
We only have the one in Central, and the next closest is in Bastrop.
So,
Cedar Creek, and then we also have one out in
so it's four general, simple second three, I guess you said.
So for this area particularly, for a 911 call that would be responding to, you'd have
Three.
to.
Cedar Creek, Bastrop, and then
My apologies.
Central, Cedar Creek.
any other questions? We're gonna do turkey drop at Thanksgiving, like,
But yeah, if y'all have any questions, please reach out. I'll leave my phone number with y'all. PRs, we're always happy to come out and visit with the public. Football nights, whatever y'all want. I know Rangers got Lake Fest in May, we might be coming out to that. We got the game ball offer them 2 years ago, since I
Dylan's
graduated.
graduate of,
If y'all come out to Lake Fest, and I look at my truck, got Mr. Barbecue, I'll feed y'all.
I'm
I
there.
take him up on that one, sorry.
Dylan's graduate of Granger, graduate of Granger High School, so, he's a fairly local boy here, so we appreciate him and, caring for our people here, so.
Yep.
It's, yeah, it's like you say, we do PR, time allows, there'll be the national night out, we got the national night out, they get flying for that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or something like that, but the citizens see the ins and outs of the helicopter.
We will be out here for a landing zone class.
What are we doing at?
Thursday from, the third Thursday of next month. I believe we were talking about having it here in town, so if y'all want to come check out the aircraft, sit in the class, or more than.
Yeah,
Sweet.
it was supposed to be last Thursday, but we canceled because,
Yeah, we had a bunch of weather.
weather, wind, and stuff. So, yeah, we'll definitely, as many of us can get to that as we can.
The third Thursday of next month?
Sure.
Yes.
This is the
I'm
Six PM,
It's
something
those, I should have
Like
attached
16.
them, but
Oh, this is for the employee.
that's an employee, yes.
Okay.
And we'll
Yeah,
find a way.
I'll follow up with you on this because I'm the one who
Working
coordinates
on
the
that.
benefits
Most likely,
anyways.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll hold on to these and keep it in my stack.
Unless you want to land it right there.
Again.
Thank you. I'll put it right.
Unless you want to land it right here at the fire department.
Citizens might not like that location.
Well, awesome.
Any other
So
questions? Phil? Jesse? Gail? audience, citizens, workers?
Are we bringing this back
Yeah,
for?
you guys want to make any action or?
I think we need to do our due diligence and do some research and then bring it back next meeting.
So we'll do no action tonight on this item also, and we'll discuss here once again, and then we'll bring it back to the vote. And how you guys, if you could send us
I'll send you the agreement, and all of the symbols are references with that.
Okay, perfect.
Hopefully I'll get that done tomorrow morning.
and then
Sweet.
I've only got the one quote here for the.
I just gave
Okay,
him the
perfect.
two others. I can email them to you if you'd like for me to do that as well.
That's fine. Yeah.
You can take a look at them, but all.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Okay, see you guys. Thank you very much.
Sure, we can do it. Yeah. PH.
All right, no action on item number 3. Y'all ready to move on?
I just asked, can we go ahead and jump to 11, and that way we can,
Let these guys go home.
yep,
We are going to move item number 11 up to number 4, in front of number 4, and then let these guys get home after that. So we'll, item number 11, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to the alignment apprentice program.
Do you want me to open it up, and then if you have anything you want to contribute, since you guys are here? So basically, council, we talked about this at the last meeting. The creating a formal city apprenticeship program that's accredited through the Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor. Now, we do have one that currently exists, but it was never approved at the council level. That's just because we had to get it up and running first and foremost. But now we're at a point where we can be more deliberate about it. Mayor and I, we've been on the phone with several cities. We've leveraged our LCRA connections through the Mesa group, and we've called the cities of Bernie, Fredericksburg, Belleville. We called Brenham and several others that I can't remember. And it varies. You know, some of them will have accredited programs, some won't. But it's been made very clear, and we're on board with it, that it's critical that it's accredited through the Department of Labor. So I had about a good hour phone call today with the area coordinator from the Department of Labor, and he said it's extremely viable for us to have a program that is both accredited but also fits the needs and the long-term growth of the city's electric department. So Curtis and I had a really good talk about it a couple weeks ago, and at that point, you know, we currently have Brandon as our lineman apprentice, but eventually we want to add another person to that department to go through the program, and there are also other residual benefits to it as a recruitment and retention tool. So, I'll kind of start there. Do you guys want to add anything to it before I go on?
I don't understand anymore, because I had everything right here. These are the work that I started. And it shows clearly it's all legit. Says city of Bartlett and everything. Going back to them.
Sure.
It's all broken down, step by step, all right behind. Not too long ago, I started doing.
Well, the key point to having an agreement like this is it outlines basically step pay provisions. So once you meet specific hourly and competency requirements, it automatically triggers pay increases. Okay, so that requires funding obligations, which have to be budgeted. So that was not, when it's not approved at the council level, therefore it's not approved in the budget. Is this a great program to have? Yes, I fully agree and believe that. Just based off the conversations I've had with Curtis and team and with the area research that we've done, this is a critical thing that we need to have. But it also needs to be approved by council because of the budget components of that as well. It's not just the hourly rate, but also the overtime. We talked about the emergency callback pay and the scheduled overtime. And heck, I mean, we just had the disaster pay. I mean, the ice storm, the overtime hours and the work hours, all of that is a funding component. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is once we adhere to an agreement like this, then we are now legally bound to that agreement. So whatever is outlined in those program requirements, be it classroom learning like TEKS and TEC and things of that nature, we have to provide funding for that. So these guys can go out there and take these courses and get trained for safety and professional development. So we have to allocate funding for that as well. And also, if we don't do the things outlined in that program, there's a liability to the city because we didn't follow a mutually agreed upon program. So that's why, one, it needs to go through city attorney review. Two, it needs to be catered and shaped to the immediate, intermediate, and long-term vision of the city for the electric department. But at the end of the day, it is a valuable and critical tool, I think, for the electric department and for the city, period. So that's kind of where we're at with it. I have a scheduled meeting with the rep from the Department of Labor next week. Him and I are going to review that in its entirety, which we already kind of did over the phone today, but also we're going to review some of the components that would be City of Bartlett specific. So that would be, like we talked about, the step progressions, what that looks like, what the pay components of that are, the training obligations, what that means. It outlines probationary periods. What does that mean? CDL requirements, all kinds of things. So that's why I'll have the discussion with the gentleman next week, and we can bring it back to council for April 10th to have additional discussion, review, and potential action on the program. So the key thing that I'm going to ask from that gentleman in our meeting is how can we cater to both parts of the equation, keep it accredited while making it a long-term viable solution for the city of Bartlett. Any questions?
I have something as far as, I know we're talking about the apprenticeship program as well, and you're saying you need to run that by council and everything. You'll also be required every year to be certified CPR first aid.
Right.
Okay. I brought this up before, and this is something that, needs to be addressed when you start having safety meetings.
Okay.
You know, every year we're supposed to be having bucket truck and, pole top rescue be recertified. I've been saying it for I'm not really gonna say it, or was it gonna take, you know? Because when you get something happens in the air, you have to have that person down on the ground, because the CPR started within 2 minutes before the bring it. So, I know he doesn't know that. Mark's been trained before, but we have to re-up this every year. You know what I'm saying? And
So we've
I believe,
talked.
we'll bring all this up all at once.
Yeah, I agree. And whatever classes are needed, if you can just coordinate them, say, hey, TEKS is having a safety class, we need to go there, then that's what needs to happen.
I brought all this up a while back.
We talked about it.
We talked about it, that's as far as.
Right. Well, we talked about it, but now we're getting down to the actual scheduling of it and going out there and doing it and planning of it.
Schedule it all out. I'm not even getting the price for it, so
Okay. Well, if you can find the date and bring it back.
that was for this year.
Okay. Well, if you can get the exact date and time, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. It's not a problem. But this is related to the apprentice program.
The safety is number one. I mean, I think $3,000 a year is a pretty good price compared to someone's life.
We don't disagree with that, Curtis, at all. I mean,
The price on that.
obviously, I mean, we are very safety oriented here, and we care about safety every day. Honestly, I mean, we want everybody going home at the end of the day, just like they came to work. And so, you know that, we've had the conversation. If there's a program out there, we need to get this, and we've discussed, all three of us have, and we've discussed in the past about a safety program. But that's, honestly, that's not what's on the agenda tonight, so we can't really discuss it and make any action on a safety program. We can bring that to the next agenda, and we can get an approval from council to enroll in a safety program for your department. In fact, the whole city public works department and electric department both need to have different certifications. So I'm not disagreeing with that by any means, but it's not what's on the agenda. And so we can talk about that, once again, we already have, and we'll talk about it again, and we can bring it to the next agenda, if that's where we're at. And so let's concentrate on the apprentice program, because that's the only thing we can really talk about.
For the meeting.
I got one question. So the steps, I don't have like the price range figured out yet. That's why you need to go ahead and have that meeting next week.
That's part of the equation. Now, Brandon has shown some initiative, and he has brought both City of Georgetown and City of Bastrop pay grades that show what a lineman apprentice and what those steps are in the starting pay. It echoes the same feedback we've gotten from other municipal electric providers, which is going to be our closest market comparison. We're not going to be comparable to private sector companies. We're just not. But that will be taken into account. And once another benefit of having a council-approved apprentice program with the outlined step pay provisions, whenever Brandon meets those requirements, the hourly and the competency requirement, there's no need to have a discussion with council again. There's really no need to even have a discussion with me or mayor. It's already approved in writing right there. And you know what the requirements are. You know, everybody knows it's on the same page, and it just happens. So that applies to not just you, but every other person that goes through that future program. That's the benefit of having the thought of putting it together and approved before
It
council.
needs to be done right to be able to happen right.
We wanted
Why didn't
to,
y'all tell me that in the beginning when asking me to get it started? In 2021.
Well, this was started with Chris, right? And I believe Chris had already had some training.
It was for the city of Harlem.
Right. Well, it's already a critical step that's been done. Like I talked to the gentleman.
You know, started.
Okay.
That's what I'm understanding.
But Chris was never beholden to the step pay. We never had the time to even consider the step pay parts because he left before that even became.
When Brandon started, it should already been approved.
So if the program had been started, when it came time to promote him, then that should have been brought up about these are the competency requirements that were needed. But instead, we had to make up something on the fly, essentially. So having a program like this is going to outline all that stuff. Nobody's saying that the footwork you've already done is irrelevant. It's not. It's important. You've brought it to us that it needs to be accredited, and we're taking that seriously. That's why I had to call with the guy today. That's why I have a call with him next week. I've told him whatever it takes to keep that accreditation, that's the main goal here. So your priority, and your priority, it's all being considered and will be incorporated into a formal apprentice program. You didn't waste your time. This is just taking the next step and taking it further. Council, Mayor, are there any questions?
Brandon, you had any educational training or just on site?
Just on site.
Just on site?
Yes, sir.
That makes it better. That's where he said he'd be able to work the next step. Because I've been in those kind of business before. And he said, make sure you get your education training too, along on the site training. Kurt said he really. But you gotta start with your educational, sign up to a pretty school yourself, if that's what you wanna do in your lifetime, and make it no bill. You can't expect somebody to pay your way all the way through. You gotta get your training and your knowledge that you want to be, and then see will help you, Kurt will help you, and everything will help you. But you gotta make a decision yourself where you want to start to do.
and Brandon's already done a really good job. He's already basically done step one, and that's get the CDL. And he's done the city a little over a year now, about a year and 4 months or so, I believe. And he's been a great employee, a great asset to the city. All three of these gentlemen right here are top-notch dudes, and we thoroughly need them here and thoroughly enjoy having them here. And so we do want them to be safe. We want to provide them with the tools they need, and we want to certify their knowledge. So if you did ever choose to move on, whenever you go to the next city, you're like, yes, I am a certified lineman. That's what Joseph's trying to do here. Make sure that is an accredited program, accredited, adopted program through the city of Bartlett. And so we're just trying to get it right. We're not against it. We're not against it at all. We want it. We just got to have it. That way, whenever 6 months or 2,000 hours or whatever it is hits next time, you ain't even coming to us saying, hey, where's my bill? Where's my raise? You know, I'm at step 2 now, you know. It's already in the books. We ain't got to have a meeting about it. It just shows up on the next paycheck. I have to remind us every now and then, hey, I can get my thing. But I'm sure there's some sort of flag you can put in the system where it pops up, you know. But,
So what's the action you take then to move forward?
well, Joseph's been, like I said, I've been on the phone with him today as well as last week when we talked to a few different cities. So there's great discussions been going on. There's another city that shared their apprenticeship program with us. Unfortunately, theirs is not accredited. And so the one just went back to this one right here. Curtis found back when Chris worked here, Chris Allen worked here, 2 years ago or so. Reached out to that gentleman today. His name's Julian. And
Julian.
spoke to Julian on the phone for a good while. And we got another meeting set up next week. And so there'll be a lot more discussions. And then the next step's going to be, once Joseph has this copy and we send it to legal, kind of get them to poke it, probably say, yeah, it's good. And then we'll bring it back to council for approval. Council's going to have to approve it before, it's ultimately valued.
We just need to make an action then to move forward with the attorney.
I got one question too.
Yes, sir.
So before I came to work here,
Yes, sir.
y'all were advertising it and kind of told me you already had an apprenticeship program in place. So, that was a hiring incentive for me. So I'm just curious why, when you were trying to hire me, you told me you had a program in place already, and now it's not in place.
So
You advertised it like you had an apprenticeship program.
no, I don't remember putting that in the advertisement. Now it might have come in community.
Word of mouth, whenever-
Right. No. Just to clarify, what's not going to happen is the city's not going to tell the Department of Labor, unaccredit us. We don't want to be part of this program, and then do nothing else. That's not what's going to happen here. That's not even under conversation or consideration. What would happen is, part of it is the next point I was going to make with this apprentice program. Once it's approved by council, a critical component of that will be, hey, Brandon, Marty, you guys have logged X amount of hours. That is what you guys are going to be certified as at the start of the program. When the program is officially adopted, it doesn't reset you to zero, doesn't reset you to zero. All it is just, it's a higher level, higher functioning program. You guys already have hours logged. Those will be credited, and you just move forward from there. I mean, like I said, it's not going away. It's not going away.
Okay, and then I did have one more question. As far as training, I know we brought up training. So I know there's a budget for training, right? But, we said Brandon has to reach out to do his own training. Every company I've ever been at, they send their employees to training. And if there's a budget in place for training, why don't we get
So-
sent to training?
So then the question becomes, who's responsible for scheduling that training? Me or department head or folks in that department?
That's over my head. I'm just-
Okay. We've talked about the training. It's different from you saying, hey, Teeks has classes available versus, hey, Teeks has this class available, this time and date. The guys are going to be out of office this date. I need a PO and a check printed so they can go there and be there. That's what I'm talking about.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, it is. Perfect. Thank you. Guys, every single time, if I look back at how many employments that we've done for the city, it is all electric department. If we look back and see about all the changes we've made to the personnel manual, all electric department. Why? Because you're valued. You guys come here and you say, hey, we need to change this because it's industry standard or it's not fair. What do? We come back, you talk to Chad and I, we talk to city council, scheduled overtime, emergency callback pay, bringing on certain folks at certain pay ranges, procurement of equipment, This lineman apprentice program, I've said it's going to happen. Guys, it's going to happen.
Well, I need it in writing because we just said earlier, you didn't advertise them, but you word of mouth is. in the
Okay.
interview, so.
Okay, well, like Mayor said, this is going to come back on the next agenda too. So if you just can hold out till April 10th, then you'll have a little bit more definitive, clear answer about what's going on. So I'm not really quite understanding what the frustration here is. The city council, just like you guys have bent over backwards to bust your tail for this city, and we make that known. Do you think I'd be out there a negative wind chill with you if I didn't care about the hard work that you do and what each of you do for this city? I don't have to be out there just like you didn't have to be out there. Chad doesn't have to be out there either during a winter storm, cutting brush, clearing alleys with you guys, and neither did I. But we value you guys, and we, as much as we want you to know that, you guys have to see that same thing as well. And we can't force you to see that. That's why we're having this conversation right now. I appreciate you guys staying around and hanging out for the meeting, council. I'm glad you guys had a chance to talk to these guys and have an open forum to have that conversation. It's important to these guys. That's why they're here. And that's why we're talking about it. That's why we've done the footwork so far to make it happen. So I'm a little frustrated with it. I'm sure I can tell you guys are too. Yeah, I know. So council, guys, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about? So.
Guys, yeah, I mean, let's take a step back here. We're taking it serious, guys. We're in a council meeting discussing the apprenticeship program, okay? We're not here to discuss safety program. We're not here to discuss what happened in the interview. And I'm sorry if you're misled in the interview.
What had to do with the principal program?
And I apologize for that, Marty. And we do value you here as a city employee, and Brandon, for sure, we value all three of you, Dr. Curtis, all three of you guys, your value. We love having you here. We can discuss this more tomorrow, if there's more discussions about the apprenticeship program. We can discuss anything else at a later date. Well, bring us anything that you want us to put on the next agenda. We'll be happy to review and put it on the next agenda. Okay, so like I said, Joseph's got an appointment with the gentleman from the apprenticeship program, Julian, and he will have that lengthy discussion with him. They set it up for Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday. Yep.
And we're trying to get to that point, okay? And once we get all that, then the city council will adopt it, if they so choose, and then we'll be moving on. And so, like Justin just said, your time already spent here with the city of Bartlett will be added to that time. So you're not starting at zero. We're not starting at zero. We're not gonna do that. We know how many hours you've worked. We got time sheets. We got all that. We got pay stubs. And so you will be accredited appropriately. Okay. So anything else to say? If not, we'll move on. And I appreciate you guys coming tonight and speaking. And just bear with us. We'll just move on. So anything else, Morgan? Brandon?
Brandon, hang in there, you do good.
Guys, we appreciate you.
You just gotta get.
Truly, I do.
Talk that before. Okay.
Thank you, guys. All right, item number 4. Discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to development, service policies, and procedures, including but not limited to adopting 2018 International Building Code, IBC, and 2018 International Residential Code, IRC Building Code, and temporary certificate of occupancy policy.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council, currently the city has the 2012 ICC codes. That's majority of them are 2012. We have 2011 NEC and 2015 Energy Code, but those are the sets of rules and regulations, basically the design and building standards that ATS, our building official, does their planner approval on. It's what they do their inspections on. The fire marshal is on the 2018 version of the International Fire Code, which is part of the ICC. So the first component of this agenda item is upgrading from the 2012 IBC, International Building Code, and the 2012 IRC, the residential one, to the 2018 version. And that would get us in alignment with the fire marshal in terms of those three components there. The other ones that we'll have to do some more research on is the National Electric Code, what version we go to that, and also with the Energy Code as well. The ICC has posted to their website, it's about a 110-page document that outlines what the differences are between the 2012 code and the 2018 code. We can also reach out to Rich Emerson, the building official, to provide a little bit easier feedback in terms of what the main differences are and what that impact would be to any of the developers or folks in town. Just wanted to get initial feedback on that, what the thoughts or concerns would be with going from 2012 to 2018 before I hit another bullet point on this item here.
So what is the concern, stuff that's currently in the process now?
Well, I mention it as a concern because there are a few current folks in town who would voice it as a concern. The comments would be, well, if you go from 2012 to 2018, is that going to cause an additional burden on me that I'm going to have to meet additional requirements just to get a certificate of occupancy or pass through the permit process? That'd be one question. The other question would be, if I'm currently undergoing plan review, or if I've already got a permit, do I now have to go through that whole process again? No, you wouldn't. You would still, you're on the, whenever it's adopted, from that point forward, anything new would be beholden to the new codes. Now, typically, I don't have as much experience on the practical application of the codes, but from what I understand, there's just typically a few revisions between any given code year, unless something drastic happens.
It happens on each of those revisions.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know that, I think we probably want to look at it, but I don't think there's a big jump between 2012 and 2018.
I think when you look at it,
Yeah, I mean, but regardless, I mean, we're not gonna impact anybody that's currently under review or in the building process now, because they're gonna stay where they are, so say, you know, April or May, whenever the next time we adopted it, from that point on is when it would start with 2018. You know, with anything that's brought in for a permit, my thought.
Yeah, I'm kind of with on that one, but we just need to know what the big changes were that's gonna
Mhm.
hurt somebody in our favor or their favor or whatever, whether it's left for buildings or whatever it might be.
What I can do is reach out to Rich Emerson, again, the building official, and ask him to just provide a brief summary in his experience and in his application, what the biggest difference is between the 2012 and the 2018.
You can put on yours, but 2018.
It is a long list of differences. Yes, sir. But I do know that it's not unheard of for places in our area to have the 2018 code. I think quite a few actually have it. I think Elgin and a couple other.
Sorry, would it make more sense to maybe adopt the 2012 and then review the 2018, do local amendments up to that?
Oh, we could do that. That'd be an option. So your 2012 would be the base, but then when you're with your local amendments, you can kind of meet the intent of the 2018.
Yeah,
You said we don't have, we're not adopting the 2020?
Well, he's basically saying right now, because it's just a 2012 across the board. What he's saying is we would do 2012 plus some amendments.
yeah.
So it would be adding those
You
amendments.
can't diminish the code, but you can improve the code.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we want to impact everything with the 2018 because, you know, so that would be my thought, maybe something to look at as well.
I think that'd probably be a good in the middle ground move to the next step.
It's not such an impactful thing all at one time.
Mhm. And now we do have some more data points from about 2.5 years worth of experience now in the permit department. So we can see how that'd be more applicable. Okay. The other component here, we're starting to run into this, is the idea of a temporary certificate of occupancy, which basically means the city will say, yes, you can occupy your building either as a home or really this is on the commercial side, as a business, even though you haven't finished all of your other requirements. It could be you still have to finish out a few things on the fire marshal side, like you didn't have everything laid out as you would typically have it, or you're missing fire hydrants, or excuse me, fire extinguishers, things of that nature. Um, the reason it's on here is because that can get very cumbersome. Someone will come to the city and say, hey, I'm really trying to get open. Can you give me a temporary CO? We've kind of talked about it with fire marshal. They're not fans of it because if you tell someone, yes, you can open even on a temporary basis, it's really hard to go back and enforce them to do it and finish. And if they don't finish, then you're having to shut them down and they've already built up this clientele and all that good
It's a
stuff.
time limit on it. Typically, I think the way Austin used to work was that if you request a temporary CFO, that automatically triggered a final inspection from all trades plus the fire marshal. And they would go in to make sure that all the life safety measures and everything were met before approving it.
Mhm.
And what they only lasted like 30 days or something like that.
Mhm.
It's kind of sticky ground to be walking on really.
We could do an across the board, I had my notes I was looking for, but an across the board, the city doesn't consider temporary COs, period. That could be an option. Or it could be, yes, we do, but it has to be outlined under a specific set of circumstances that are an official policy of the city. And what that'll do is it'll allow Rose, myself, mayor, to communicate to applicants through the permit process that when they ask, oh, what do you guys do on TCOs, temporary COs? Well, here's our policy on it. Here's the city council's adopted policy on it. Everybody knows up front what the expectations are, and it allows them to go through the process a lot faster. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at it. The other one, before I forget, is on, it'll come to me, sorry guys. But before I recall, is there anything else on those 2 points, the codes and the TCO? Oh, here it is.
We probably need to sit down and discuss that to see how we really want that to.
Maybe put pen to
play
paper.
out. Yeah.
And I just remembered it here. Okay, well, we can bring both of those back. And the third and final component, when it comes to commercial permits, do we want to have another policy where we don't issue a commercial permit, that could be multifamily or business, until we have plan approval letters from both the fire marshal and the building official? Because right now we've done some where we issue a permit and they're still going through the fire marshal process. But when it comes to something that's a little bit higher scale, that can cause issues because you have fire lane considerations, life, health, safety considerations. So is it in our best interest to, again, to put pen to paper and outline in what circumstance do we issue commercial permits relative to fire marshal approval? So just something else to think about. But we can certainly bring it back, put pen to paper and bring it back.
We should be able to do that by next meeting, I would think.
We can do that.
Unless y'all really make an action on it tonight.
We can bring it back.
Use that as an example, say a residential upstairs downtown and commercial down below, is that what you're saying too? Or across the street, whatever.
That'd be one example. And across the street is a good example because she has 8 units on the upper floor. Then she has the beer garden, and she has a 9th unit, a living unit over there. And you take one set of 4, another set of 4, and the stairwell going up. Well, this set is almost done. She's going to want, I'm assuming, temporary COs or certificates of occupancy for those 4 units, while these other 4 are still under construction. Well, when we looked at her plan review letter and we talked to the fire marshal, there were a few concerns about if a fire were to happen and the unconstructed units, it could spread to the other ones. And when you have the stairwell in the middle, like I said, it could cause issues. So that's why we're recommending putting some policy on paper on how to address those situations. Moving forward.
Go through the attorney as well.
I wouldn't hurt. I mean, I would recommend talking to him and seeing what the potential liabilities are of having something like that or not having something like that.
way she could ever do this, they could, make sure they build a firewall in between, you know, temporary city road, where there's no way. Or whatever fire marshal wants,
Mhm.
put in a firewall or fire deficit, whatever, in between, useful in the next road, nobody could ever, if you protect it.
So,
And I would say hers would still be temporary CO, because the others are all complete anyway. So they're no different.
so we can do a little bit more research, put pen to paper, and if it's okay with council, we can bring it back for additional review and consideration.
Is something we need to do a workshop on at some point, or
We can.
do we need to, you think? Or-
Might be a good deal to do a workshop with ATS and the fire marshal here and get their, you know,
I agree.
Hmm.
So we're just speculating on what they're gonna require, so.
Right.
That's a different road, smaller across the street.
I'll make a motion, we create a workshop,
Separate.
and we need to find out what day and time works best.
made a motion to move this to a workshop. Second, did you want to add a date and time, or?
That's what I was looking at.
Who said?
Next council meeting's on the 10th.
Correct. Yes, sir. April 10th.
Monday, third,
We could, now that meeting's not till 7. We could have a workshop at 6, from 6 to 7.
Let's do that night from 6 to 7 on the 10th. Same as the council night.
14 or 6 p.m. All right, so Philip made a motion to move this to a workshop on April 10th at 6 p.m. with Jesse in a second. All in favor? Carries 3-0. All right. Oh. Item number 5, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to background check policy for a citizen volunteer.
I'll give a quick synopsis and then feel free to step in. But basically, we have library volunteers that now that the library has been rocking and rolling with their programming, there are children considerations. So Miss Susan and the board brought it to us that it is probably wise to do some sort of background check on these volunteers. And typical, employment background checks, they're higher cost just because of how in-depth and thorough they can be across the board. But there is an option through the Texas DPS that you can do a criminal history conviction search, and it's very cost effective, $3 per search. You search by their full name and their date of birth. So if we can provide that on a volunteer form, and they'd have to willingly provide that information and be subject to this, it does it searches the computerized criminal history database that's supported by fingerprints through DPS, and the sex offender registry that's also online too. So it searches those databases. Let's see.
Well, and I guess we need to know the wording. Because I mean, you have the application, that's what started this after the board has voted, that you felt like you're gonna have people come in and working with children, we have access to data with addresses and phone numbers that it should be required, because we don't be on responsible if something does happen.
Mm-hmm.
The form that you all have to allow that is a city.
It's like an employment form.
And so I don't know if this is something that you all say we need to report, if you have to change the wording. And I know some people may feel like it's overkill, but I just think, and the reason why the board talked about it is that even, one of our board members at their church, you cannot work in the children's room unless you have a background check, and I don't think that we should take that lightly. We're trusting people, someone that comes into the kids come to the library all the time, and see the person, to the library,
then you should try hoping that a trust that you think, oh, that's the person I know in the library. And
Mhm.
I know none of us have been the ones that are volunteering already over there, but I feel like there's still something that you should do when you walk in, do that.
I think it's a great idea. I think what we can do is use that DPS database. And what we would do is just amend the volunteer form to have a snippet at the bottom there that says, by signing this, you are acknowledging or submitting to a background check through here, here, and here. We'll run that by legal. Is that way they make sure that it's on the up and up. That's one component of it, amending the volunteer form. The other is, who does it apply to? Does it apply to any and all board and committee members and any library volunteers in specific? So those two pools of people, because if you have just someone who's volunteering their day to do some weed eating or brush pile stuff, you don't really need a background check for that at this time, I don't think. So,
Obviously, anything that involves children's, minors under 18.
See what Head Start has to have down there.
oh, that'd be a good one.
Now, how does the process, does that work? Does it go through the PD here, or we do through DPS? Or how does it work?
It's through DPS. Like I said, you have to be real specific, because if you have a easy name like John Smith, it'll pull up everybody that's John Smith. So that's why you have to have first, middle, last, and the complete date of birth, and that'll give you the most accurate results. So, but it is through DPS. PD, I don't believe, and Chief can clarify this point, I don't think they can do a search without a valid reason. Like there has to be some sort of case or reasonable suspicion. Just consent to it, or
No, a police department can't run, or a sheriff, anyone through TLITs unless we can, default an actual fine.
Mhm.
So that's why we just talked about using what the city uses, which is the.
a background.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
would be.
Yeah.
That's yellow, it's-
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And, so we're gonna move on to some action on this, some wording, or?
If council, if you prefer, we can, you can approve DPS background checks, or what would be the technical term? DPS criminal history search, for either just library volunteers or library volunteers and board and committee members. That can be one of those.
I think it would include everybody.
Make a motion? Mr. Jones made that motion.
I'll second.
Seconded.
Who's gonna get someone to do her background?
All in favor? All in favor?
I'm even certified, I'm definitely already work.
3-0. All right. Halfway home, folks. We just walked the forum. We have to wait. Yes, ma'am.
Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
So we have the actual loss, I mean, we have the numbers. Are we gonna check on that 90 for Willowdale, or?
We can call the director and just check and see how many beds, like what their occupancy
Okay,
is. Or
Yeah,
I guess an average probably to these days.
that's probably, yeah, I think that's.
Most likely though, most of the residents are City of Bartlett. A lot of them.
Really,
A lot of them are from internal City of Bartlett, they've moved here.
right.
There are quite a few from like the Villa, Holland, Ranger, but a lot of them are gonna be covered in that first initial 639 or whatever it was.
Yeah, so that's, and I don't know if you wanna, so if I could get the actual address roster, maybe you can. Or somebody.
From them,
Well, no, from
from
the
the
city.
city, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll, I guess we could come here, and I don't know how we're gonna find out, how I know,
Yeah, I don't know how you would either.
if they actually were there or not. You guys wanna think about that, or? But before I do an agreement, I'll send it.
You're getting duty calls.
Actual agreement until I know what that
There you go.
number is. So the roster is actually attached to the agreement.
Gotcha.
So,
So you need a roster.
yeah, I need a roster.
You need an average occupancy load of,
Yeah, and I think that will help us get to the right number. I don't know what we're charging.
$14,
Okay,
right?
no, thank you. But I'll send you a photo.
Okay, thank you. Is that why you're waiting? I thought you were just wanting to entertain,
Yeah, no.
watch this entertainment here.
All right. Let's break
Sorry, I
it
should have asked if you had
down.
anything else.
Okay, very respectful.
Yeah,
There was parking on the front row here that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you should have. Thank you, be careful.
Thank
Item number 6, discuss, review, take any necessary action related to City Hall Council Chamber renovation scope. Project scope.
Okay. Where we are at the scope consists of pretty much the common areas here with the exception of all of the kitchen, just cover the flooring in the kitchen, the 2 restrooms, which we're looking to turn both of those into basically unisex restrooms where only one will be ADA compliant. That's the best way that we can get some compliance with the accessibility act. So for the most part, we had a survey done on the asbestos. We do have asbestos in the flooring in the mastic. So everything else is clean, drywall, everything. So our thought was we'll just encapsulate it. We'll put carpet over this floor, and we will encapsulate that over there with the vinyl, not a vinyl plank, but a plank that actually snaps together to keep it where we don't have to disturb it because we'll spend. If we can demo all of this and do an abatement, it's going to cost us $25,000 to do it. We have to do the whole building. So we can encapsulate it and stay within the the right way to do the asbestos to treat it. Excuse me. The scope consists of basically removing all the ceiling tiles for the insulation. We've already got ceiling tiles purchased. We'll replace the insulation, clean and paint the ceiling grid, make all the drywall repairs in here above the paneling. The paneling will stay, just be repainted. The hallway in there will be, basically have to make some repairs to the paneling and such as that because some of it's been pulled away. Put all new trim on the outside corners, inside corners, basically clean it all up. New baseboards, new flooring in there in the bathrooms. The remodel of the bathrooms will consist of pulling out the partitions that are in there, taking the urinal out of the men's room, demoing one of the toilets out of the ladies' room, and then opening that up to meet the ADA requirement. But we also want to make the men's where it can be sufficient for families or for, the bisexual, not bisexual, excuse me. Cool.
Right on,
Whoa.
man.
The unisex restroom.
We're progressive.
So anyway, that way we can keep it clean and presentable to everybody, all of them. So that's really pretty much the scope. I think we'd previously approved the $38,000 with the ARPA funds,
Tax note,
tax note to do that with. How much we got?
about 38,000.
Yeah. The plan is for us to purchase all the insulation, the floor covering, we'll put everything, all the labor basically out to bid. And then we will, get those bids in and then we'll hopefully cut it loose and we'll try to keep it with, got to keep it in that $30,000 budget. So there will be some things we talked about doing some duct work in here, instead of having these blasting out. I don't know that we'll be able to fit that in the budget or not, but at this point, we'll get it priced up and see. Lighting, it's more cost effective to change these not change them out, but to basically retrofit them to be LED, which will be and put new lenses in there, so we can retrofit them, put new lenses and all for pretty much what the fixtures would cost us, if we bought all new. So that makes more sense, I believe, is to retrofit these. And then the kitchen, all we have to do in there is just the floor covering. The kitchen's pretty much already done. So that's pretty much the scope in a real quick nutshell. But it's pretty much cleaning up, replacing floor, there'll be some patching done. We're not going to do a lot of leveling or anything. We're just going to basically make it where the cracks are just covered with some floor repair or floor prep, and then, go from there. So that's pretty much what we're looking at.
First thing they do is when you get all the ceiling tile out, because you can make a big mess going on.
Yeah, we'll have to have a dumpster here, and it's gonna be it's gonna be nasty.
You're not gonna do that on
No.
your first one.
Put flex seal over there, so the fans will.
Yeah. Actually, it hadn't moved a lot lately, so hopefully it's pretty much done. But that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell, to get this area and the rest of the building kind of cleaned up like we did the other office area. So any other scope you guys might have or questions on that, or?
I have a question, is that a space back there, or what is that?
It's just, they're just platforms, they'll go away.
Oh, y'all not gonna use it, it's just gonna go away?
Yeah. Eventually we'll do the dais, the council dais, which will be probably elevated and
That's down the road somewhere.
yeah. It's valuable real estate being taken up by this old carpet. We would remove it, but underneath that.
Pretty rough. It's pretty rough.
It's pretty much, I think it's doable. We just have to be really cautious of what, we can't go $10 a square yard on carpet. We're gonna have to keep within a budget on that. We'll do the carpet square similar to what we did in there.
You gotta leave a big opening in that, and look, you can have a dance floor.
We can have a dance out here, and then, so really the procurement of the materials are gonna be probably just about what the labor's gonna be as well,
I
so.
mean, when we cross that, the flooring for the common area in the middle there, you can also, I mean, if it's cheaper than carpet square, you can do the whole thing.
Oh, you could do the whole thing, well, except for the restrooms, you'd have to, you would want to do them in carpet, but.
No,
Are you talking about it here?
If we do the PVC flooring in there,
Yeah,
and it's cheaper than carpet squares,
yeah, no, that's a good point, we can do that all the way through as well.
yeah.
So either way, I mean, that's something we just need to decide on, how that needs to go. We're looking at $2.50 to $3 a square foot, just for the material.
Cool, any questions? So you have a scope kind of drawn up,
I
and you just
do.
need to put it out for bid, is that what we're
Yeah,
gonna
well,
do?
we've got to get it out, we've got the scope, we just need to review it one more time and then get the solicitations out.
You got a comment? No?
You want to have about the duct work, you gonna do it?
Do what?
You gonna do the duct work?
Ideally, we're not doing any of this work, the contractors do it.
Well, we've got a budget coming on that to be able to look at it. Again, we're gonna have to make a laundry list of all the items, and then if we can't get it in the budget, then something's gonna have to go away. So we just need to look at that, see what the determination's gonna be. It'll be nice to have ductwork in here, but we may
I was
not.
just thinking, I can ask my son, to take pictures of the sink from, say, you come by, take the dust, that's what he does.
Well, he's certainly welcome to give us a price on it, if he'd like to do that. And we would,
Probably knock it out on the weekend. You could buy a
Yeah.
house on
It wouldn't be a lot to it, because basically we've got 4 plunges you can access from the top. Now, these you cannot access.
Last week, April,
There'll
last
have to be
Tuesday.
a transition or some.
Whatever that is,
brought into here
28th,
Because the building roof elevations are different. This roof is higher than that roof, and this ductwork is right up against, there's no access to get to it. But it's doable. I mean, it can be done. So yeah, if he wants to give a price, I'd be more than happy to have him come look at it.
I'll take pictures and I'll send it to him.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a scope that needs to be,
Bid out.
bid out? Yep. Okay, so we send a motion. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. You made a motion?
You gotta make a motion for a second. Oh, I thought you meant.
Gail has made a motion.
Actually,
So second. All in favor? Very good. So get that. So you go to get the vote. Item 7, discuss with you taking any action related to the 2023 summer pool season, including, but not limited to, hiring a pool manager and lifeguard and pool facility renovations.
The quick piece of it is council through the budget approved 4 lifeguard positions with 4 requisite certifications. We, through past experience, are going to recommend that we get a dedicated pool manager. In order to do that, we'll probably have to pay a little higher dollar amount to attract that. Not just the pool manager, but the lifeguards themselves. We reached out to the YMCA to see if they'd be willing to do the lifeguard duties for us this summer, but they were not available to do that. So we're hopeful to do that the following year. But if we go to, say, one pool manager who's lifeguard certified and 2 lifeguards, then that would free up to pay a little bit higher rate. But we would also want to be mindful that we may not be able to be as open as long or as often as we would like in a typically fully staffed pool season, just because folks take vacation, leave town, they get sick. And we have to have 2 lifeguards on duty at all times. The insurance is through TMO Risk Pool. That's a general liability, things of that. And we will pay for their certification though, so we have to get them registered for that here pretty quick. So basically what we're looking for is, do we want to do the 4 lifeguards, or do we want to do 2 lifeguards, 1 pool manager? And then whatever the decision is, we can start soliciting for those folks and get them on board and signed up for certification training.
I'm definitely a big fan of the manager plus 2 lifeguards, just because without the management, it's chaos.
Are we looking for 7 days a week for the pool to be open, or what are we looking?
We usually do
It's Thursday through Sunday.
Thursday to Sunday, like 4 days,
Mhm.
with options of rentals, private rental.
Right.
But if, that's, if lifeguards are available, they have to have 2. Even if it's rented, they still have to have 2 lifeguards on duty. So.
So we can revisit on what the pool hours and days will be.
We just basically, we need to start advertising for pool management and lifeguards. They're very behind.
Well, let's make a motion, we go ahead and get that in the works. The second half of that.
About the pool facility renovation. Anybody want to talk about any of that, or? Sorry.
That could be a separate motion, could it not?
It's all one item.
Just a quick comment. Any renovations that are done at the pool, with Memorial Day being the target date, it'll be hard to procure, potentially bid, and do any significant pool work. The best thing we can do right now is just get it up to operating speed pretty quickly. We can still have the conversation, but plan for it maybe after pool season, if that's open to council. But if that's the case, then we can table that for a later time, that second component. But there was a motion from Mayor Pro Tem to convert 4 lifeguards to 1 pool manager and 2 lifeguards. Is that?
We got a Philip Weaver motion and a Gail Jones second. All in favor? Item 8, discuss, review, take any necessary action related to the 2023 citywide cleanup.
The basics of it is we are requesting Saturday, April 29th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or until the dumpsters are full to be the dedicated citywide cleanup date. It'll be at the same location as last year, catty corner from us. 4 dumpsters will be diagonally positioned on the gravel pile side. This year, Mr. Weaver has done the footwork to procure a few additional services. One is a scrap metal dumpster, I believe a tire, disposal area, or to go into a truck or an 18-wheeler, and then it'll go off-site. And then a battery, a trailer for batteries, and then also a Goodwill trailer for other home goods, basically. Paint, no paint. Well, the increased options will be tires, batteries, and scrap metal from last year. So and Goodwill, yes, sir.
And Goodwill's bringing a trailer that'll be manned as well, so because they have certain things that they will or will not take. So we have to be careful with that as well.
So and of course the brush pile will be open at the same time. But the biggest component for this agenda item is the tire dumpster has a cost associated with it. And I'll turn that over to you for that.
Basically, the recycling place, they charge us $3,200 to bring a trailer here. So that trailer will hold up to 1,000 tires if they're stacked correctly and so forth. Sewer plants probably got 250 tires out there. We've got numerous tires around the city for people that need to bring in here. They're sending out certified letters to people who have tires stacked on their lots that need to be gotten rid of, so we could get them in motion to get them out. We're going to keep the trailer for an extra week. They're going to allow us to keep it, not only they're going to deliver on the 28th, pick it up on the 8th, and that'll give us time to get tires from the sewer plant, so forth, back in there and get them in there. Now, one of the items we want to talk about is that we're not going to allow, say, a service station down here that's got 100 tires out back to just come over here and dump them. We need to talk about, do we want to limit the number of tires that they can put in for free and then charge after that? Just want y'all's feedback on what that might look like. You know, if we need to charge something for over 10 tires or 5 tires or whatever, or not worry about it. Because we're not going to recoup all $3,200.
We might recoup some of it, no?
But we could recoup some of it, yes.
I'll leave it over to charge, $1 a tire.
My recommendation would be like the first 5 tires are free, and then any additional tires to that, maybe that's $3. You know, you still want them to get rid of the tires. $3 is cheaper than them taking them somewhere else to take them. It's like they're going to charge you $5.25, I think, $5, something like that. So cheaper than them taking them somewhere else to get rid of them, but it's not like we don't want to pile them up again either. And say, oh, well, the city's going to do that free tire disposal again next year, blah blah blah. We may not do it again next year. And we don't want any more mosquito habitats or rat or snake habitat.
Now, the SITCOG, Central Texas County Government or Council of Governments, they usually do tire roundups, but they only position in Belton or somewhere in the Temple area. It's not accessible as easily for our folks. But there are also restrictions to you're not putting tractor tires in there.
Yeah.
And you're not putting rims, in there.
Yeah.
It's just strictly, basically, tires.
Light truck and the passenger car tire.
Mhm. So what we can do, just for the sake of moving forward, is council, if you can approve the, I would say up to 3,500, just to give a little bit of wiggle room for the tire disposal service, we can follow up with a proposed fee schedule for the tires. That way we can definitively start advertising and say tires will be available for drop off. We can tell Rasmo to start coordinating with folks who are in violation for tires and send out the code letters and take enforcement action. That way they have the chance on April 29th to get rid of those tires. If not, then they'll be hit with enforcement action. So it's just an incentive to clean up town even more that way.
I'll make that motion.
So, Mr. Weaver's got a motion on the table to approve up to $3,500 for the two-wide cleanup. If you want to second that, all in favor? Carried 3-0. Number 9, discuss, review, take any necessary action related to the creation of a holiday committee for seasonal decorations and events. So we've always waited to the very last, like December 24th, to talk about Christmas decorations. Trying to get a little jump start here. Maybe like some flag or something for 4th of July or something. I don't know. I mean, or Veterans Day or something, or Memorial Day. I mean, something we can put in our downtown district. We want our downtown district to be attractive. Something we can put out in front of City Hall. So We just need basically a dollar amount approved up to, is that what we're looking for?
Well, council, through the budget, you approved 5,000 for holiday decorations. For the most recent Christmas, we spent 1,120 for the wreaths downtown and at City Hall. So that leaves about $3,800 for additional seasonal decorations for the rest of the fiscal year. That includes your 4th of July, Labor Day, and any other holidays that come up. So that's part of it. I mean, that funding's already budgeted, but the holiday committee would be basically the first line of defense to do the footwork, to go out there, get prices, get ideas, then either get approval from council or just go ahead and start doing it and implementing it. So that's kind of what the conversation.
I think I have about $3,800 to work with right now.
Yes, sir.
Until the next budget.
Yeah, correct.
October.
Mhm.
So how do we solicit that if we put it out to looking for people that want to volunteer for that, to put a committee together? Or how do we do that?
That'd be it. We could, that'd basically be it, holiday committee.
Kind of like we've done in the past for, people who join the library board or cemetery board or the MDD.
Right.
We can put like a, so he's creating a holiday decoration committee.
This would be more of a fun committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, a real low stress. Well, I say low stress, but you never know. You could probably have some fist fights, but right, it should be pretty straightforward committee. I think.
So we just basically put, because we do actually need to fill some spots in the MDD as well. Some times have expired and need to be replaced.
In library team.
In the library board. And so we need to put those notices out this week to start bringing in some apps. So we just basically need to create this committee. They already have, basically $3,800 this year spent. Until October, until the new budget's approved, if we can put some money in.
Do we put the number of people, like 5 members on that committee, or 3 members, or what do you think?
27.
I don't know that many volunteers at all.
I think 3 would be a good number.
3 to 5. I mean,
Yeah.
3 with maybe like
Let's say a
council
maximum of 5.
liaison. and 3.
Up to 5.
Yeah, up to 5, but a lot. I mean, I wouldn't mind being involved. Sure, there's a council person included, but liaison, they're not being involved. We definitely need Susan from the library on this board. Okay, so Mr. Weaver has made a motion to approve up to 5 people. And we have a Jesse second. All in favor of creating one more committee. Passes 3-0. One more committee and would be considered Baptist here at the city of Bartlett.
Who seconded? Who seconded?
Yeah.
Committee for committee.
Baptist has a committee to set committees.
I didn't think about the reason you have to have that around, have to go back on it.
Gail Jones wants to be on the committee.
He's the head of lighting.
The head of lighting. All right, item 10, discuss, review, take any necessary action related to utility billing. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Discuss, review, take any necessary action related to utility billing payment plan and disconnect policy.
Council, if I can ask to table this item to a later meeting, it warrants more in-depth conversation than I think that we have the capacity for tonight. So.
I'm fine with you tabling that.
Is that okay with?
I'll make the motion.
Philip made that motion. No executive session, no more future agendas, no more meetings.
Oh, future agenda, we're gonna do that.
I've got PHI Air Medical tire disposal fee schedule for citywide cleanup.
We have to, for you all to sign for the $10,000.
Yes, let me do this year.
EML.
And those that they won't in the money until they get the sign.
Library.
Is that for us to sign, for me to sign, or for you?
Just,
My name is
see.
on the city attorney there, because even though, when they have those papers, their name off, and that's, you should sign it.
Yeah. All right, is there anything else on the future agendas?
We got AirVac, building code updates, library needs to sign agreement,
Obviously, the Lineman apprentice program.
yeah, tire disposal fee
We'll
schedule,
leave that off.
holiday committee, see what.
Safety program apparently. You know, tomorrow you're gonna give them a party with like, they've registered themselves on 6.
Bring it on. Bring it on. I'm sure it'll come up with that other item. But
All right, so we got all that. Hey, and we need that last motion, Mr. Weaver made a motion to adjourn. Second. Gail has seconded. Richie said yes. All in favor, we're going home. Call meeting at 9:52.
9:52.
That's the longest meeting ever, get nothing done.
It's been a while since we've had a meeting that long.
Stuff, guy.
Let me turn off. Let me.
No action, no action, no action.
You sit down.